So welcome to our Right Management webinar. So today we're touching on all things outplacement. So we're going to be chatting through what outplacement looks like, what delivery programs look like, and how this is becoming a trending area in terms of business supporting their staff in modern business, and supporting their staff both in terms of placements coming into the business and what we're talking about today on the outplacement side. So my name is Paul Howard, brand manager here at Right Management Ireland. I'm delighted to be joined by my colleague, Anne Healy, one of our senior coaches of Right Management, who works with companies from Right Management in delivery aspects to the company. So delighted to have Anne here to run through some case studies, in a few minutes' time, and give her own career journey and perspective from the work she does in outplacement.
Thank you, Paul.
So just set the tone for today in terms of what we're going to have a quick chat about today. So we hope to just chat to you for about half an hour, just to give you some insights, as I said, into this space of right management. I'll give a quick introduction on the company. I'm going to talk for about 10 minutes in terms of what outplacement is, what it looks like, and why it's important. And then Anne is going to pick up then on some case studies, on some projects he's working on. So to give you an insight into what delivery looks like, what the process involves, and a few stats in terms of what we look to achieve from them. We had a few questions in advance of today's session as well, so we're happy to answer a few of those. So we're going to get to a few personal questions that people raised in terms of this outplacement support. So happy to answer those and have a chat around those as well for the next half hour. So to start with, just a little bit about background to our business here in Ireland. So Right Management sits within one of our divisions of the company called Talent Solutions. So our Talent Solutions brand is our career management brand. So we deal in things like outplacement, leadership training, career development. So everything to do with talent and talent development. It's a sister business of our main recruitment firms, which you may or may not be familiar with: Manpower, our permanent hiring company, and Experis, which is our technology arm. So we do a lot of hiring in tech companies, managed services, contracting, that type of business. So we all sit under the Manpower Group umbrella. And like I said, today's chat is in that talent solution space, which is our outplacement and right management area of business. So maybe to start with, in terms of outplacement, what it is and where it sits in this whole kind of career journey. So for us, outplacement is part of this, like I said, talent solutions focus of business. So it sits along with areas like coaching, assessment solutions, leadership solutions, career development. People would be familiar in recruitment about placements, obviously putting people into company. Outplacements deals with people transitioning or exiting out of companies. So how those people are supported, what structures are put in place to help them on their next stage of their journey, help them to get over sometimes maybe the shock or the change that they're experiencing, depending on how long they've been with the business. Could have been a long time. A lot of candidates we deal with have been with companies 5 years, 10 years. They're used to the environment. It's become part of their life. And it can be a big change for candidates when they transition from a company that they see as their working family or their working home into a new business. So this is what outplacement is. This is what it deals in. We're going to talk a little bit in the next few slides about why it's important and where it sits in modern business. So if you accept this notion that change is constant, change is always happening, your outplacement is a critical component of that change and of that transformation. So what it can do and what it's designed to do is supplement resources and tools for people's job search, personalizes their journey. Everyone's career outplacement or career transition journey is different. Some people will move on very quickly. Some people need more support. And outplacement is about this individual element or individual way of supporting them. Outplacement also mitigates negative impact, by offering support for their next step, both from the company perspective and from the candidate perspective themselves. And from a company perspective, protects your brand and culture, so those go forward employees, and helps protect your brand, both for attracting new staff and in some cases, bringing back staff that may have to exit the business at this point in time due to no fault of their own. Could be highly skilled staff, very sought after staff, people that are really embedded in the company. Those people do return. We call it the boomerang effect in recruitment. So all those things tie in with this area of outplacement and why it's important for companies to consider this as part of your company strategy. So career transition is a word we use here in Right Management. It's the same thing as outplacement. It's just different terminology. So career transition support why is this whole area important? But I suppose the main aspect is it equips candidates to, I suppose, transition confidently, as we say there, into their next career journey. I'm not going to read all the individual text here, but some of the areas that it does help people with is giving them a chance to reflect and evaluate what that next career journey is. So whether they're being supported for 1 month through an individual program, 3 months or 6 months, they're given that time to reflect and decide what's the next step for them. What type of job do they want to do? Is it a similar role to what they were in before? Do they want to transition into something different? Do they want to look at self-employment? Is it coming near retirement? Whatever people's unique circumstances are, Outplace provides that time to engage and reflect. It gives people a chance to work on their own personal brand. Branding obviously is a well-known terminology for business and companies, but in terms of job seekers and people getting into the workplace, personal brand is very important as well. How they're seen, how they're perceived, how they promote themselves. All those things are areas that we do work on as part of our outplacement programs. That's something again, and candidates get to take stock of as part of this program. Employability is yours to own. So again, what type of career journey are you looking at next? What type of role do you want? Is it a step up on the ladder? Is it a similar job? All these things can be looked at as part of this kind of outplacement support and journey. And again, that networking aspect of how do I go about looking for my next role, whatever that may look like. Is it through the traditional job boards? Is it networking? How do I put myself out there to give myself an edge in a marketplace now that I am looking and actively looking to move into a new role? So those aspects of networking, your own personal brand, giving time to reflect and develop along with your career coach and all the resources that we have, which we'll touch on in a few slides time. So in Right Management, we talk about this aspect of delivering outplacement with empathy. We're always very conscious that, when our delivery teams, whether it's our staff or it's our coaches like Anne, we are dealing with people that can be at a vulnerable, time in their lives, transitioning from one company to another. Like I said earlier, it might have been a surprise that, this has happened to them. There's I suppose, a personal element to why me, why is this happening in my circumstances? So we do very much focus on this idea of delivering outplacement support with empathy and really looking at people as the individual. So what that looks like is some of the items we have listed there: that personal career coaching, self-development and assessments, empowering people to own their own journey. So own the aspects of what they're going through, with network connections and ongoing support, which is very important. And in Right Management, we have support at different levels as well. Obviously, support through our coaches who are professional and very hands-on in terms of how they engage with staff. We have our own delivery team in the business as well. That's a touch point that's available for people in one of our outplacement programs, and lots of resources as well where people can engage and get support for any aspect of what they need, from interviewing to CV preparation, to all the different elements of what they will need. So we do really think about this and try and deliver this aspect with empathy as best we can. It's certainly in our minds that that's the way it should be delivered, and I think that's the best way to engage with people that are involved in these programs. Career transition for all levels of staff. So when we talk about outplacement and career transition, we are talking about really everyone that's in scope for the company. We focus on areas of connecting candidates with resources, whatever career level you're at, connecting with the right coach, to give them that kind of career goals and outcome-based transition. Increasing confidence, personal branding, we touched on already. And in the chart you'll see there's a few different levels of outplacement that we deliver on or engage with people on, right from executive outplacement, which might be for those very senior people in the company. They could be directors, managers. They might need a bit more time and scope to help them transition. Fewer of those roles may be available in the marketplace. We have that individual support, where people are engaged one-to-one for specified periods of time. Ranging through usually from 1 month to 6 months would be the full scope of time. And again, that individual outplacement, one-to-one support. And we also have that group outplacement, which is more of a workshop type environment, where certain people roles might not need that level of one-to-one support or longevity of support. There is that group outplacement support where you can get into things, not quite as detailed, obviously, as the individual, but certainly can engage with a wider group to help, a group of people on their journey in that type of setting. So a few different elements of outplacement, a few different product offerings, if you want to call it that, it's out there in the market to consider. when embarking on this outplacement program. So I'm just going to touch on maybe an example of what that journey looks like. So we take an example here of someone in scope. So someone that's kind of midpoint in their career, relatively senior marketing manager, from the IT sector, have their hobbies listed. Our delivery team get as much information about the candidates as we can, so we know how to match them with the best possible coach. And the example here is someone that's been with the company a long time, 14 years with the company, recently made redundant through no fault of her own. What does that journey look like, for Sophie? So a few different elements of what that journey looks like, and I'm not going to read through all the text again, and we're happy to give anyone the deck if they want to read it in more detail. But it would start at the top left, that consultation, obviously with the company, decision being made, notification, that referral onto ourselves or whatever outplacement company is. So that introduction is made, with Right Management. They're there to support you. Your journey starts here. And then the candidate, Sophie in this case, would engage with the team to have that initial conversation to see, what the next steps are, what the journeys look like. So notification or referral, instant access to our platform. It's PowerSuite Next, which is our resource platform, but we have all the tools necessary to engage. Everything from like a CV preparation to what interviews looks like, assessments you can do, self-assessments in terms of next steps, upskilling elements in there as well. So very detailed and unique platform, instant access to that. They would also deal with our delivery team about getting their own dedicated coach. We try and match people up to the best fit, that we have available at that specific time to help them on a one-to-one level with those 1-hour sessions. And with various numbers of sessions per program, which I'll touch on a little bit. Self-discovery, self-reflection in terms of what's next, where do you want to go? The fact that this current role has come to an end, it's a natural self-reflection point. It gives candidates the time to think, what do I want to do next? Maybe you stayed in that role a little too long. Maybe you're thinking of making a change anyway. Maybe this is a positive thing in terms of looking for a new role that you really want to be doing. So forms part of the journey, that self-discovery and self-reflection. Personal branding, we touched on the previous slide. Then we get into the areas of preparing people to get back into the marketplace, job search and learning. It could be a self-employment element of that. If someone was thinking of set their own company, we support with them on that basis too. Majority of people would be looking to get back into the market. So we do help them with that. Job search, what the best platforms are, how to write your best CV, how to engage with the company, how to stand out. And we also have some connections with our sister companies here in Right Management, Manpower and Express, to actually help people get placed as well. And then the end journey is that closing the deal, getting back into the workplace. Ideally, having found the perfect job for you to transition to, something you're happy with. And then at that point, the career journey would end. Maybe an extra coaching session after that if you've had to use your allotment in terms of embedding into the new company, first 60-day plan, that type of thing. But the goal is that placement. That's typically the end goal for someone in Sophie's position looking to get back into the workplace. So a nice little overview slide in terms of what that journey looks like for an individual in the program. In terms of the team, like I said earlier, there's a network of supports there available. Someone in an outplacement dedicated career coach who's a big help in terms of helping them through that journey. They have their own delivery facilitation experts here in the business as well, a support team to help to be on hand to assist with kind of urgent tasks, and those, like I said, career coaching help desk for any questions needed answered. We time with our UK colleagues in delivering that service as well. So it is a full scope of engagement. It is a full scope of delivery when someone is being supported in an outplacement program. There's no one element to it. It's a combination of a few areas, both in terms of personal one-to-one support, as well as people engaging and making the most of the material and resources that are available to them as well. So just a few slides on why this area of outplacement is important and how it impacts people. Job loss and restructuring has a significant impact on individuals, more so than people would think. And in a lot of cases, you have to go through the delivery program yourself to really understand some of these elements. I think most people in their career would have gone through some kind of redundancy program at some point, in their careers. Can be stressful. It ranks number 7 in a study that we took this slide from in terms of life experiences. Could take time to recover, mentally or psychologically from losing a job. And the one that struck me at the end was that potentially that decrease in salary for people that aren't being supported I would imagine reason for that is if people are not supported through an outplacement program, it's on themselves. They feel isolated. They might panic a little bit and take on a role that's not for them just to get back into the workplace because they were working one company for so long. They just felt, they didn't have time to waste to get back in there. And maybe that was the wrong salary. Maybe it was the wrong role. And again, if you're in the wrong role and on the wrong salary, it takes time to get back up to where you would have been. With that outplacement support, those aspects can be mitigated. And a lot of cases, we see people transitioning through our right management programs into better paid salaries as a result of the outplacement programs they've gone through. That's not unique. It happens, a significant amount of time in terms of programs. So a few areas about why this is important and how it affects people individually when we're into this career restructuring area. And we talk a lot about how individuals and how they're supported, but outplacement always helps reduce retention risk for those staff to remain. We've done our own research on this. For every 1% of reduction in staff, over 31% could leave over time, in the first year, 2 years, or a significant period of time after that restructuring. Having these programs in place shows existing staff that they're being supported, that there is supports there for this company. The company does care about their staff. If someone's just let go and that's the end of the engagement and support, can have a negative impact from people remaining in the company. They start looking at their employer differently. So certainly having this in place helps mitigate and reduce risk both for existing staff and for talent attraction in the future as well. If a company has a reputation for supporting their staff, they're more likely to get staff in, and when the company does bounce back or they're back in hiring mode. Significant talent shortage at the moment here in Ireland in terms of the recruitment side. So having a good brand reputation would be a big help in attracting people back into the business again. And again, another reason why outplacement is important from that perspective. And I'm going to finish with this slide. It's just a couple of examples, I guess, in terms of potentially what not to do in terms of consultations and engaging. These were just ones we picked online, some high-level examples that kind of made the news over the last while in terms of maybe some best practice. There's loads of other ones as well you would have come across. But certainly, I think we need to keep in mind that, technology may be making this restructuring process easier, but certainly not better. We do have to keep that personal and human touch in mind when it comes to outplacement. Might seem obvious, but a couple of examples there, sending a text message to a large number of staff, a day before the big national holiday in the States, Thanksgiving. Very impersonal. Could that have been handled betterly? Absolutely. Could have been handled in a better way. A bit more one-to-one engagement, a bit more thought into the messaging, to make it seem personal and come across a lot better. McDonald's informing staff to stay home from work to facilitate, a delivery remotely of these kind of decisions. So again, maybe a little bit impersonal. The Google example as well, in terms of sending an email to personal address, no advance warning, no consultation. This is going to be our last day. Very cold from a personal perspective. If you receive something like that, that would be your natural reaction to get an email like that out of the blue. So really, companies have to think about their staff as being individuals, and as much as possible try to take that individual approach in consultations, in meetings, in terms of the messaging. Try and keep it as individual as you can. Large companies, obviously, it's harder to do from that large scale individual basis, but certainly majority of companies, could be taking a much more individualistic approach when this, restructuring is necessary. So that's a few slides on outplacement in general, about what's important, about some aspects to think about the journey. So at this point, happy to hand you over to my colleague Anne, who's going to talk a little bit about her journey and about her work in terms of companies and what that kind of work entails through a few case studies as well. So over to you, Anne.
Great, thank you, Paul. And that was a great overview on outplacement in general. So just in terms of introductions, I am one of the senior associate consultants working with Right Management, and I've been working with Right Management for the last 2.5 years. Prior to that, I had a 25-year career in the corporate sector. So I started off in life assurance. I moved briefly into an Irish semi-state company, and then I had a 16-year career with a FMCG company, a big multinational. And actually, during that time, I experienced a redundancy opportunity in 2019. I moved briefly into a telecommunications company, and actually then I decided myself to set up my own business in 2021, and Right Management are one of my partners that I work with. So I've cross-industry experience and I've actually been through redundancy on 2 occasions. So I've been a redundancy nominee on two occasions, and I received outplacement support following one of those workplace restructures in 2019. And from my own perspective, I found it really valuable to have outplacement support at such a critical time. I had redundancy in my early 20s and it had very little impact on me. But when it happened to me in 2019, it had a completely different impact because my life was very different and I had much more responsibility. So Right Management were actually the company that provided me with outplacement support. And really, working with my coach, it helped me to take stock at the time, think about maybe what my strengths were, think about what I wanted to do next, help me with optimizing my CV, my LinkedIn profile, and just, being an emotional support at a time when I really needed it. So little did I know in 2019 that I would be working with Right Management then a couple of years later as one of their senior associate consultants. So over the next few slides, what I'm actually going to do is take you through a couple of case studies of clients that Right Management and myself are working with. Okay. So the first case study relates to a pharma company and an acquisition that took place in 2024. So our client was acquired by another pharmaceutical company, which prompted some restructuring of roles and responsibilities. So the delivery support that was made available was that basically Right Management tailored a support program for 25 candidates, and they were at mid-level to C-suite individuals. And basically what they had was access to the online portal that Paul mentioned earlier, which is called Next. And there's basically there's a wealth of resources and tools available to people within that platform. That's available 24/7. There's exercises that people can do in there, like, for example, getting clarity on what your values and drivers are, and also things like strengths analysis. None of the activities take more than about 30 to 60 minutes to do. In addition to that, they also had access to monthly webinars and workshops, and they were facilitated by myself and the other coaches that work for Right Management. And they would cover things like career assessment, approaching the market, interview success, CV optimization, social media, specifically on LinkedIn, and also then a workshop that's run over 3.5 hours that follows the full career transition journey. So each client also benefited, or each delegate, each candidate also benefited from having one-to-one career coaching, really focused on their specific needs. Okay, some of the outcomes of the program was that, of the support in general, was that it fostered significant goodwill with obviously the exiting employees, but also with the existing the staff that were staying there, because often morale can take a little bit of a dip when you see these workplace restructures taking place. So by offering the support, really, I suppose the company demonstrated their commitment to the well-being of the exiting employees, but also, it did help to improve and strengthen internal morale as well. The candidates also had access to the Manpower brand, so the recruitment brand, and that did also facilitate, a smoother transition for some of those individuals into their next roles as well. Okay, so we'll just move on to the next case study. So the next case study, basically this client, they faced a need for strategic restructuring due to some economic challenges. So it meant really that as part of the initiative, the company had to make the difficult decision to downsize its sales division, and it meant that 9 employees were going to be impacted. So what did the delivery support look like for them? So the 9 employees that were impacted, they were on a 3-month support program with Right Management. So this is our probably most popular program, and this is a comprehensive program that includes unlimited access to the platform, as mentioned, monthly webinars, the one-to-one coaching as well. So they received 6 individual coaching sessions, and that was tailored to their specific needs and circumstances. They also had access to a specialized recruiter, probably through either the Manpower or the Experts recruitment side of the business. So what some of the positive outcomes there, again, significant positive impact on affected employees. Several of the employees actually were successfully considered for roles with other Right Management clients through maybe the recruitment side of the business. And again, it really did help to mitigate negativity surrounding the restructuring. And this was really important for this particular client as they were a small to medium-sized enterprise. And they had very strong ties to the community. So it was important that they would, that they did, and they were seen to be offering the right support to the local community. Okay. The next one that we're going to move on to relates to a large global tech restructuring that took place in 2021 and 2022. So the client embarked on comprehensive restructuring effort and a transformation journey aimed at modernizing the workplace and the operation. So they needed to partner with a provider capable of offering tailored outplacement services to thousands of employees worldwide. And obviously, Right Management are a global provider of outplacement support. So that was a key criteria in their selection of Right Management, was their ability to deliver customized outplacement support, but also on a global level. So in this particular situation, they leveraged the recruitment expertise of Experis brand as well, Experis, obviously because they specialize in the technology sector. They had a comprehensive package that include access to one-to-one coaching, the workshops, the CVs being optimized, etc. And basically, some of the positive outcomes was that actually, throughout the program, 312 direct interviews took place for the impacted employees, resulting in 76 job offers. There was a satisfaction survey that would have taken place, and there was a satisfaction rating of 99%. And most notably, really, the interview to placement rate for the candidates in scope stood at an impressive 21%. And that really highlighted the effectiveness of the program and in securing meaningful career transitions for the people that were impacted in the workforce. Okay. Another case study that we have here relates to a pharma company as well, and it's a plant restructuring taking place in 2024. So this particular client actually required the support to take place on site because these are factory staff and they're still working at the moment. And I'm actually delivering the support to the individuals. So it's taken place over a 1-year period. I've actually already completed 3 on-site workshops, successfully completed 3 on-site workshops. So this was considered to be the most suitable mechanism for the workers affected because they are on shifts, etc. So the workshop was designed as a half-day event, and it's an interactive workshop, really, and we conducted that in very small groups, and we purposely done that because that allowed the participation to be, I'd say, much more active participation, and it really did foster a real collaborative learning environment. By keeping the group small, people felt more inclined to express their how they felt and what they wanted, to do next in that. So we spent some time really taking stock. We focused on things like CV development, approaching the market, interview success. So 3 have taken place. I have another one now to take place next week. The participants really did engage in the sessions. They expressed their comfort in sharing their feelings during these sessions, and they got personalized, I suppose, attention, because it was in such a small group and that. Okay. The next one, which is the final case study that we're going to look at, relates to a multinational IT company. So this client was undergoing a strategic business downsizing in Ireland, and this was part of a global restructuring effort. So some scoping calls took place to really understand what the appropriate level of support was that was needed, and to make sure that the package was tailored to the staff's needs and that. So basically 127 employees, were going to be impacted, and basically, it included people like in the sales, marketing, and the pre-sales positions. So we offered bespoke 1 and 2 month support programs in this particular situation. All of them had access to the platform, personalized coaching, but maybe, depending on the length of the program, they may have had 2 sessions or they may have had 6 sessions. And some of them had assistance with recruitment as well. In terms of some outcomes there, what we're seeing is that the client, they really are, the client places a high value on its global reputation, and it is really deeply committed to employee satisfaction. So the success of our delivery aspects are closely aligned with the client's ethos, ensuring that the candidate satisfaction remains a top priority during the outplacement support that's been offered by the coaches and that. Okay, so there are a couple of case studies just to give you an idea of the type of clients that we're working with. In terms of the impact and results that Right Management have, just a few numbers that we have here. So 98% satisfaction rating across all our program levels. People that have outplacement support land roles 2 times faster than those who have not received outplacement support. There's a 98% feel better about their career. 98% of people that have participated feel better about their career transition journey after they've had that coaching support. Because as I said again, it's the emotional support that we can offer them as with the practical supports that people need to get back into the workplace. 90% have an increased positive perception of their former employer. So when people do exit a company and when they go through workplace restructure, obviously it can be an extremely emotional time and experience, but they can still, if it's handled well by the organization, they can still be strong brand ambassadors for the company even after they leave the organization. Okay. And just moving on to the last slide before we move to the Q&A piece. This is just talking around the individual outplacement supports that Right Management offer. So the programs do vary in their offerings. And I suppose some of the main differences that I would like to just highlight here is really around access to your career coach. So the Advantage program would typically include 2 one-to-one sessions. The Elevate program, which really is our most popular program, allows for 6 one-to-one sessions. And the Edge program, which is a 6-month program, allows for 8 one-to-one sessions. The Elevate program and the Edge program do also offer recruitment support through our recruitment side of the business. And really, I suppose, personalized career coaching really does provide candidates with the tailored advice that they need and the guidance for their specific job search. And that one-to-one support can be really very helpful to people. I found it very helpful to myself during my journey. But it really does help people to identify maybe what their strengths are, help them to set goals so that they can move forward, help them to be at peace with the redundancy situation before they go to market, and also to help them to stay motivated throughout the job search process. So really the point of difference I would see as somebody who's been through redundancy would be the one-to-one coaching support that some of these programs offer, and also access to the recruitment side of the business. Okay, so I hope that helps to help people to be a little bit more informed. I think I'm going to hand back over to Paul. We have a couple of questions that have been submitted that we're going to answer now. Thank you.
That's great, Anne. Thanks very much. It's always interesting to see the scope of some of those delivery programs. I think there might be a perception in the market that's only for large scale restructuring. Interesting to see smaller numbers of scope, 9, 10 people, right up to the hundreds that would be for global restructuring as well. So certainly not just for large programs, individual and smaller groups and smaller restructuring, certainly in scope there with some of those examples. So like Anne said, we've had a few questions in advance of the session, so happy to answer them and just run through a few of them in scope here. So if you want to take the first one, Anne, what criteria do you think companies use to choose an outplacement provider in your experience? What do they look for? What do they like to see in an outplacement program?
Yeah, thank you, Paul. So I think, obviously, employers are going to really seek an outplacement provider that can tailor their services to meet the specific needs of the organization and the individuals, and also depending on what the available budget is as well. So, they might look for a company that has a reputation and a track record in the space. What does their services look like? Do they have varying levels of service, which we have shown there that Right Management do? Obviously, geographic location is important as well. So if the company have employees that are located in different regions and countries, they might be seeking a provider that has a global presence, which Right Management do. Any thoughts yourself, Paul?
Yeah, similar. The only extra thing I'd add is, I guess, sometimes with large, particularly some of the global examples you would have given your case study, a lot of those companies may have restructuring needs in different countries. So for having an outplacement provider that's able to to standardize, I guess, their outplacement service offering to actually deliver for all those countries in scope. I've seen that kind of be requested as well. So just similar take to what you're mentioning, just that global perspective or that global reach can help, choosing an outplacement provider can be one of the criteria as well. So for the second question from Carolina, how significant do you think outplacement support is in the current market? It certainly is important, and I think it's getting more important, with every year. We talked a little bit about that staff retention piece, how outplacement is important in supporting that, seen to be doing the right things by our employees in good times and bad. There's a continuous drive towards, ESG strategies for companies, which outplacement would play a part in, again, with that support and going the extra mile for staff, both in good times and bad. It's a talent shortage environment at the moment. So again, from a branding perspective, it's really important to be seen, to be doing the right thing, and to actually be doing the right thing for all of your staff. Both for people in the business and people transitioning out. So certainly the element of that too in the current employment market. And the final one is there's a lot of evidence of this boomerang aspect to employment where people liked working at a company through no fault of their own. They've had to move on to another company for various reasons. A lot of those people kind of do come back to the company. If you can leave them, as with one of Anne's slides, with a good perception of the business, leave them as much on a high as you can through going through that career transition program. Good chance they'll want to come back in the future, when that company's hiring again, when they're in a more positive space. So I certainly keep in mind that boomerang aspect to employment as well. Anything else you want to add in that one, Anne?
No, I agree with you, Paul. I really do think there's a strong place for outplacement support. It really does help to mitigate the negative impacts of job loss. And obviously, at the end of the day, it's about supporting people to transition effectively and efficiently back into something else in their next career move.
Great. Third question from Geraldine. Do you think outplacement should be mandatory, I guess, for employees through redundancy? Is there trends leading towards that, do we think, in terms of being, I suppose, mandatory for certain types of companies? Where do we see that going, do you think, Anne?
Yeah, we know that they're doing it in Belgium, in some of the bigger companies that over there are doing it. So there obviously are some legal or policy requirements that are making them offer that outplacement support. So I think there are valid arguments for making outplacement mandatory, but I really think it will depend on case by case. So it'll be based on the legal requirements of the company policies, ethical considerations. But there's no doubt that by providing outplacement support, it really does demonstrate a commitment to employee well-being, and it can have a real positive long-term impact on the employer branding and reputation as well. So again, if employees can leave an organization and still be your brand ambassador, I think you've done a really good job at workplace restructure.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. And I know we were chatting about this previously. I think from a practical perspective, if it was to become mandatory, probably going to start with those large companies that would have larger resources. We would think that'd be the natural starting point because they would have greater financial resources to support people through a policy and through a catch-all situation. Probably a little bit more difficult for maybe those smaller, medium-sized companies, those SMEs, to have a formal or mandatory outplacement program in place, just due to their limited resources, I guess. But certainly there could be an argument made for multinational companies with multiple presence around the world. Mandatory outplacement programs for those companies could be something that might happen in the future. In terms of the last question, what aspects of an outplacement program helps candidates the most? I think Anne touched on it through her presentation on some of the delivery packages that she touched on in the case studies and the service offerings. Obviously, having a really good engagement with your personal coach, I'd imagine, would probably be the number one that the candidates would say in terms of the delivery program. If you gel well with your coach, if you engage with them, that can be a very helpful process, through your outplacement program, whether that's whatever number of sessions is in scope, whether it's the 6 or the 8 or whatever. Lots of time there to engage with your coach to really, allow them to help, a candidate on find the best possible job, help them prepare them for that journey, what they need to do step by step. So I think the coaching side would probably be number one that I would see. In terms of the programs, having a longevity of supports can be useful too. So Anne mentioned that the training program, as example, would be the most popular one that people would be provided with. That's a reasonable period of time. to get people from a point whereby they're in that, job loss mentality to where they need to be in terms of the jobs market and the next stage in their journey. So having that longevity of 3 months supports through their coach, through delivery teams, through the resource and platforms would certainly be, helpful as well. Do you have any other thoughts on that one, Anne? Would you feel the same?
Yeah, I agree, Paul. And from my own experience, having been through outplacement, I do think the one-to-one support was hugely beneficial because it was very much about me, focused on my needs. So I think, the main thing is really that we do address both the emotional and the practical, that we do offer the emotional and the practical supports that people need in an outplacement program.
Fantastic. Well, great. Well, thanks to everyone for sending in their questions. We're happy to answer them, and hopefully you got some personal engagement from it. So, coming towards the end, I'd just like to thank Anne for joining me today, just to have this chat through all things outplacement. Some great insights, Anne. Some great to see those case studies and delivery elements to give people that maybe you're not familiar with it an opportunity to see what it looks like and what's in scope. So, thanks very much for coming on the session today. For anyone that wants further details about it, you can visit our site, rightmanagement.ie. If anyone wants the PowerPoint from today's session, happy to provide it to you. And this session is recorded and can be watched on demand as well. So you can get some refresher on outplacement and some of the things we touched on today. So for myself and Anne, thanks for attending, and we hope you got some good insights into the world of outplacement. So have a good day, and thanks very much.
Great, thank you.